Hello, I hope you are doing great. Today we are going to discuss a little bit how FairPlayTube is implemented. We are going to talk about the structure of the projects so that you can contribute in the GitHub repository. So, before we start, please remember to subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, invite more people to subscribe, and also like and share the videos. Also, let us know in the comments functionality or features that you would like to have on FairPlayTube. Let's start. So this is the project. This is the project structure, and you will be able to find this project on the GitHub repository that will be on the video's description. So this is the folder, the project structure, all the solutions, how it is structured, and you see that we have this settings placeholder in here. The settings placeholder are the placeholders for all of the configuration files that you will need to fill, or all of the configuration things that you will need to fill for your application to work. So this is the sample of how the Azure APP configuration should be configured. Basically, you will configure this app settings file and you will later import it on app settings on the Azure configuration, right? On the Azure app configurator. This is the structure for the app settings .json or .development JSON file for the client project. This is the app settings structure for the um, server project, and this is the structure for the test project. Now currently we have a strong dependency on Azure APP configuration, but that will change, so you will soon be able to use the APP settings in your server project without having to create an Azure APP configuration resource. So as for the projects, the system is actually a Blazor WebAssembly application running on .NET 5 and with a .NET Core hosted API. So here you will have the server project, which is this one, where you will have the controllers and the access to the main functionality. The controllers will actually usually be small, and most of the things that they should do is just invoke the methods in the services project where most of the logic will be located. The client project is where you will have your pages and basically the user interface, right? This is the Blazor WebAssembly project. You will have the client services, and the client services are actually classes to use to access the API endpoints. So you will see that you will have methods like track visit, write, or methods in here like get public process videos, and basically they will have the uh, request to the API and return the data. So the client project will actually have to use these services instead of invoking the API directly in the pages. This is just to have a strong type client services to also be reused later in other parts of the system, right? Things that you will have that you will notice in here is that all of the URLs must actually be accessed through constants, right? We are purposely avoiding hard-coded strings through most of the application, and instead what we are doing is we are having in the common projects, we are having a lot of constants, for example, for the default commissions, right? The pricing limits, the currency symbols, the hops routes, and the messages names, configuration keys names, the titles, the claims locator. That's, I think, is that how you, the actual key for the claim to be able to get it, the roles, the user pages routes, the root pages routes, the API routes, right? So you will see that in there. The only thing that it's not in those constants is where you have to use query strings. You will have to add it manually when doing the call, the client call. So the common project is the most independent project, and this will have all of the common things that the application that all of most the application will need through a lot of the projects, right? So for example, here is where the enumerations, global enumerations and the constants are located. Some of the extensions are located in here too. Some helpers are located in here too. Uh, the interfaces will actually be located in here if you need to implement things that need special behavior. And some also static providers will be in here too. For example, the IP provider, which basically do an HTTP call to an URL to get the the IP address of the machine executing this piece of code. The components is a Razor library where you will have all of the reusable components, right? And the purpose of this is to be independent uh, of the way you get the data. So actually, currently we have a small issue that we are fixing. This has a strong reference or a strong dependency on the client services, and we do not want to do that. Currently, that is being done because we need to get the edit token to be able to enable the support mode, to be able to enable the edit mode for the video insights widget. And we are doing that to get it, we need to do a call to the API because we do not want to do that for all of the videos in the list if the user hasn't um, selected it, because that will create a lot of unnecessary calls to our API and to the video indexer API. So we are purposely avoiding that. But we have here. So the thing that we need to do is actually remove this reference, create an interface in the common project that will be something like I video edit access token provider or retriever or something like that, right? Implement it on the server project, and on this components project just use the interface method, receive the interface instead of receiving this video client service, right? And instead of doing this video client service, get video edit access token, use the get video edit access token from the retriever, uh, from the injected interface that we will have in there, right? The purpose or one of the things that we want to do with the components project is that it only receives the data without invoking special behavior, except for some of the cases like this one that we need to access to get the token, right? And we need to do a call. The data access is where you will have your data, your entity framework objects, right? The DB context and the models, right? So you will have them in here. This is totally auto-generated with the EF Core Power Tools. EF Core Power Tools reverse engineer. One thing that you will notice in here is that you will have classes suffixed with partial.cs to add special or additional behavior to that. Also, for auditing, one of the things that we are doing is we are creating a PayPal transaction.partial.cs class, and this class will be dummy, and this needs to implement the iOriginator info. The iOriginator info will have these properties, right? So basically, it will give you a compilation error if the database table that matches your entity does not have those columns, because the generator will not have created them. We have the database project. This is an SQL database project. Unfortunately, as far as I know, SQL database projects are not supported on Visual Studio Code nor on Visual Studio for Mac. So you will have to unload that project in order to compile, right? One of the things that we will do soon is actually have more solutions in there so you can work with that. The models project, these are the shared models that are going to be used in both the client side and on the server side, right? On the API and on the Blazor WebAssembly part. Notifications project is the signal art notifications, right? That are going to be sent to the user, and also to handle the messaging system that we are planning to implement in the near future. System configurator basically currently is kind of empty, but this is meant to help users and both developers and people deploying the system to ease or to facilitate the configuration of the system, right? The tests in here, we will have all of the tests. Currently, the rule is that we need to have tests for all of the endpoints, right? Currently, we are actually not enforcing that rule because there are some things that we need to fix. We are actually are actually first uh, creating or adding support for any memory database um, to be able to facilitate a lot of this stuff, right? So people can actually test locally without having to do a lot of additional configuration. Um, and the video indexer project, we actually may remove it. Um, so the video indexer project was actually meant to be a .NET worker role to be able to run this outside of the main application scope, right? And running it on an individual app service in case we are deploying to Azure, right? Basically, we wanted to have this independent from the application. Uh, this was going to be a fallback in case of main approach didn't work, right? For example, one of the things that we are doing currently is that in our server project, we are enabling a background service in the application. So you see that at I believe it's at the end of this project, this configuration. It should be somewhere around here. Add hosted service video index status service. That video index status service is the one that is going to check all of the videos that are marked as pending in the database and check if they have already been indexed in Video Indexer, and if they have already been indexed, the database tables or entries will be updated accordingly, right? The one thing that happens in here is that this background service is running as part of the web application or as part of the web API. So if for some reason the API were to fail or to be down, this service will also be down because it's part of the same application. But if you had it in another project, for example, in a worker role that executes every 5 minutes, every 5 hours, something like that, right? You will be able to configure it more easily, right? And enable it more easily, and it will be total independent of your main application, right? So for now, our main strategy works, but when the system or the load of the system grows, especially in production, we may actually want to move to use this external service approach, right? But for now, it's empty. And that's basically it, what we have at the moment. Please remember to visit the GitHub repository. Also, fork the repository. We will really appreciate if you give us a star on the GitHub repository and share it with everyone on the open source community, because we also want more people to help with this amazing project. Thank you very much and have a great day.